What's up, hot dogs? Today, I want to talk about a studio device and a live device that I find underutilized, undervalued, very cool, is a loop switcher. Today, we're going to be talking about loop switchers. Um, I generally have these with me all the time, live in the studio. But Cato witnessed one day in the studio where I did not have one of these with me, and we were tracking somebody who did not realize that they needed to practice their pedal switches in addition to the parts that they were playing. So I had to sit on the floor and manually execute pedal switches for this person. And this would have saved me a whole bunch of time and my back for 4 hours, I think, on the floor while this person struggled to track their parts. Anyways, on this board, we're not getting paid by loop switchers. I just happen to like this one a lot. On this board, I have a Loop Switchers branded loop switcher. I know there's a few different companies that make them. I like this one particularly because it seems like it's a small team, handmade, super durable. I've spilled beer and stuff on it, and it's been going strong for a few years. You can get them in various different lengths from one, I think, up to a 10 or 11, 12, something like that. They're pretty inexpensive and just really hardy and reliable and good at what they're doing. I like this brand specifically because it's ultra compact. Like all of the wiring in the back and all the switches in the front are close together. Some other brands are more spread out, so maybe that's more your thing, but that's why I chose this one specifically, and we'll get into some of the reasons why I think that is good in a second here. So the first reason I think that it's a good idea to consider one of these is that it reduces your overall cable length in your signal at any given time. So instead of, for a board like this, instead of all the patch cables constantly being within your signal flow, affecting the noise ratio and affecting the high end in the signal, you only have whatever's active at any given time. So I happen to have these two pedals in the first loop right now, I believe. So if I want to have these two pedals on, we're only hearing noise and high-end loss from the patch cables that are involved with turning these two pedals on. All this other stuff is out of the loop. It's not in the signal. So at any given time, your signal is cleaner and less length involved. Another reason that I like these is that it moves all or almost all of the switching to the front of the board. Instead of having to reach over pedals or worry about switching this pedal on and accidentally turning one of the knobs on this pedal, all of your switching for turning pedals on and off is moved to the front, and you don't have any to worry about accidentally pressing the wrong switch or hitting any knobs that you don't intend to hit, unless it's a pedal that you want to be turning with your foot, like an eruptor or like a phase 90 or something like that. A third reason these are cool is that if you're using an old pedal, I don't have any great examples on this board right now, but something like a Devi Ever, maybe some pedal that is like handmade and older and uses poorer components where there's an audible click when you activate it. That issue is eliminated now, because instead of hearing a click upon activation of the pedal's already on and it gets activated from here. And these are set up so that they don't send a click through your signal when they're turned on. So I found that to be a big help. In addition to that, and related, if you have pedals, again, especially older or poorly made pedals, like or just abused pedals, like a Soviet muff or like an old Rat or something like that. Sometimes those pedals, they might sound good and you can't replicate that sound any other way. But just having them in your signal chain adds noise based on their presence, based on the power supply that's going to it. Even if it's not turned on, sometimes those add noise to the signal. So by isolating that in its own loop and activating it only when you need it, you cut the noise out from your signal for most of the time. It's a great idea to use it. Another reason that you might want to consider one of these is it preserves switch integrity. So for pedals that might be a little bit more expensive, like these guys, or like if you got a Klon or something on your board, if you don't want to be switching it all the time and wearing out those switches, it's more costly, and you don't want to be sending that off for repairs and losing it on your board. You only switch it on once at the beginning of your set, and then all the switching is done here. And this is much cheaper, much easier to fix, and you don't have to worry about taking apart pedals that you care about. Related to that, aside from saving switches on expensive gear, if you have gear that you know is less reliable, like a DL4, something that's known to fail because it gets stomped on a lot. If you know that there's a chance in your recording or during your live session that a pedal might fail due to power supplies or for whatever reason, if you have it isolated in its own loop, then that means if it stops working for whatever reason, you don't have to do any troubleshooting. You don't even have to stop playing. If something stops working, you just deactivate that loop, and then that's completely out of your signal chain. You can still use all of your other pedals, and you can just finish your set and worry about the issue later. Another reason to consider one of these is if you have a specific sound that requires pedal manipulation that you need, like, for example, if you have a solo that you want to take and it requires sort of a cocked wah sound, or if you have like an older pedal that requires multiple stomps to get to the particular sound that you're looking for, instead of in the middle of a song activating a wah and then pulling the foot back so you're hearing those motions, or cycling through presets on some older pedal that takes like 4 or 5 stomps to get to the specific fuzz tone that you want or something like that, you can have it preset. You can have that wah already cocked. You can have that setting already set up on the board, and then you're just activating it and deactivating it whenever you need it, and it's just ready to go. So one of the main reasons I think that people like to use these or should like to use these is because in addition to activating one pedal at a time, like I already mentioned, you can put 2 pedals within the same loop. So if you have something like on the verses for a particular song, you like a specific tone that requires multiple pedals, but you're totally changing it up for the chorus or totally changing it up for a bridge or a solo section, you can have all of those pedals grouped into one pedal. So then if you need to switch to the solo section, you can have those set up on a different loop, and it's just a super easy switch. The reason that I like this brand specifically for loop switchers, in addition to the other reasons that I already stated, is because everything is so compact together that if you turn your foot slightly, or if you just have a bigger foot, you can activate more than one loop at the same time. So if you have your verse setting on, instead of tap dancing and turning the verse off and then the chorus on with just a slight turn of your foot, you can turn loops on and off at the same time. I think probably the main selling point for using a loop switcher. So I think that reasons why you should consider getting this, even if you're not like a guitar player or somebody who plays live, as an engineer or as a producer or as a studio owner, it's a good idea to have one of these, invest in one of these, because it's relatively cheap, in the neighborhood of like sub 100 for smaller ones, or I think only just a few $100s for a nice, like hand-built, really reliable piece of gear. It lets you take control in like a studio setting. You don't have to rely on your guitar player, whoever's tracking, knowledge of their own gear. You don't have to worry about them having tested everything in advance about whether there's going to be noise or anything like that. If you want to track somebody playing live and getting a live feeling, instead of chopping up things into individual verses and choruses and applying stuff afterward and worrying about reamping, if you got a player who's used to hearing their pedals and they want to play against their pedals, this enables you to do that a lot more easily. If you're tracking a player who's used to using their pedals, they're used to hearing that feedback in real time and playing through those pedals. Whereas if you try to isolate it and put them through a DI and reamp it later, it's going to affect the performance. It's going to affect the take. So this is a relatively minor cost that I think pays for itself in the types of performances that you're going to get, both live and in the studio. I think it's a good idea to consider getting it. I know in the last video we talked about pedal order. So if you have any questions or comments about why I have my pedals in this order, if you think I'm foolish, or if you have comments about my cable management or anything, just leave a comment, and then I will personally respond to you. I promise. You should sign up for the Patreon, like and subscribe to the videos, and see you next time.
Okay. You should introduce yourself and mention
What do you
the band.
No, why would I do that? That's nothing to do with it.